So we're going to go ahead and take a look at a video, and this is actually going to be from Duffy, the transportation secretary. Okay, and it's going to be about, just overall what they call like air civility. And he is going to be addressing some dress codes as well. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Ourselves, not just our families, but we think about those who are around us, and we call our better angels. In a busy time, and again, the airports are going to be packed. TSA lines may be a little longer, and as you might not be able to find a seat as you're by your gate because of the number of flights that are going out or coming in. But I think we have to think about, how do we do a better job? How do we, maintain maybe some of that frustration we have as we travel this Thanksgiving season? Maybe we should say please and thank you to our pilots and to our flight attendants. I think, again, I call this just maybe dressing with some respect. Whether it's a pair of jeans and a decent shirt, I would encourage people to maybe dress a little better, which encourages us to maybe behave a little better. Let's try not to wear slippers and pajamas as we come to the airport. I think that's positive. If we can help someone as we're getting on the aircraft that might need some help putting their bag in the overhead bin, and you're a little stronger, a little buffer, you've been lifting, stand up and, offer to grab that bag and put it up for someone who's having a more difficult time. Common courtesy and civility, I think, is going to work well. And I'd ask you to please be patient with our TSA and our gate agents. And again, they're working their hearts out to make sure that this is the best experience possible for you and the safest experience possible for you. And again, a little gratitude goes a long way. And if we all do that, I think we're going to have a far better travel season. And by the way, we're going to get to our families on Thanksgiving with a lot better attitude.
As he was saying, he was like, just having, better civility, having some courtesy to other people, being kind, being nice, all that jazz. Saying please and thank you to the pilots and or like the stewardess or the flight attendants. Just overall being nice to them. I know I do, like when when you're coming in, hey, da-da, when you're leaving, hey, da-da, thank you, whatever, right? And it's kind of already set up like that anyways, because of them. As you're leaving the plane or as you're boarding, they're always sitting right or standing right there, so they kind of already have that, so you could do that kind of stuff. He was also saying, help out your neighbor. If you see that they're struggling with their bag, offer help. Just overall trying to have more unity, and not be so individualistic with it. Overall, just be kind and whatnot. I do want to mention, y'all, we do have a lot of people who get entitled. Okay, where they'll be looking at you and be like, "Get my bag." All right, that's not, to me, courteous. But I digress. But the main thing with this video is not all the other stuff that he mentioned. The main thing is the dress code that people were upset about. So people did not like the fact that he said no slippers and no pajamas. Okay. I don't fly often at all. Okay. Maybe once a year. Okay. That's a round trip. But when I do, I'm not the kind of person, even just like in regular day-to-day stuff, I'm not the kind of person that's wearing pajamas and like, you know what I mean? I like to look like something. I don't want to just be going out looking like I just woke up, outside of work. But anyways, but no, like seriously, like I don't prefer to just look like that. I'm just minding my own business and then I'm just wearing pajamas and a bonnet. I personally don't think that's proper, but whatever, you do you, boo. But with that being said, you do have people who are like, okay, I like my pajamas and I like my slippers. I understand what he means, because I remember when people were flying before, they dressed up. They wore the nice dress, nice blouse, nice slacks, nice shoes, whatever the case may be. But during that time, not saying the airports weren't busy, they weren't as busy as they are now. And it's not as much of a, not parading you around, but like cattle, if you know what I mean. So I see what he means, but I also see why we got a comment like this, which essentially says, I think we killed off the getting dressed up for air travel culture when we started making people get undressed to get through security. I mean, it's everything. But you also have to understand that the culture needs to be changed for that. And that's what leads me to this one. I love that he doesn't encourage airlines to treat people more like people and less like cattle. Wider seats, more legroom, less hurting. That would encourage people to behave a little better. I'm not saying that I am for these airport freakouts and them bugging out or any of that kind of stuff. But I will say, these seats, you like this. Okay. Oh, I gotta get my seatbelt. Okay, let me. Okay. And you got Joe right here, and you're trying not to touch Joe, and you're like, okay, let me go ahead and get that, and let me go and get my bag, get my blanket out, and okay, cause I don't want to. Oh, I just hit Joe. Okay, let's keep it real. Them seats are tight. Okay, they are real snug. All right, so not saying that, pajamas for me, like I said, sweatpants. I'm not wearing jeans. I can't feel my jeans, but if I could, I'm not wearing them. Okay, I'm not about to sit up here and wear jeans. I'm not about to sit up here and wear a pretty skirt with, not wearing tennis shoes, but wear like some flats. And no, I need something that's going to be comfortable. Okay, I'm not about to sit up here and wear all the extra. Okay, obviously, you can wear a nice t-shirt, but it seems like he doesn't even want you to wear a t-shirt, but at the end of the day, if y'all got people like this, okay, I ain't doing it. Next one. So it said nothing about the reduced safety of air travel in the U.S. from loss of air traffic controller numbers. He's saying more of let's be kind, let's be sweet, let's be caring to our neighbors. And they're saying, what about not falling out of the sky? Someone also said, is Secretary Duffy, that's the guy who's speaking, seriously still talking about this? Why don't you make sure the flights are on time? People are compensated for canceled or changed flights, and there are enough air traffic controllers, stuff that actually affects the flying experience. But that's the thing, could you have airlines that enforce certain things where they say, like, there are some airlines where if you're showing and it's all to the discretion, it seems like, of the flight attendant, if you're showing a little too much, or if your stomach is out a little too much, then it's like, you may need to go ahead and buy a shirt, or you're going to have to out of here. Okay. So that's the thing. And for me, I mean, because you see it. You see the people who got their hair in one of these kind of things, and they're just walking around bobbing it. You see it. The pajamas. Now, do I agree that people should be walking around pajamas and all this other stuff? No. But that's also another thing. If you wanted to make it so that there is, maybe put some more pressure on some airlines to say no pajamas, no slippers, no bonnets, that's different. But as it stands, if there's no specific rule, depending on whatever airline you're on, of course, but if there's no specific rule, but that's the thing. This comment is the one that really got people. They're like, okay, yeah, later for being nice. Why are you talking about my outfit? It feels like people just, the whole nicety is like, yeah, later for that. Why you coming after my slippers? Which you don't like SpongeBob and Patrick now? It's like, just saying, it looks a little, but I mean, let's keep it real, in all seriousness, no. I understand where he's coming from. I understand what he means. Okay. It seems like our society, has been more degraded to where people just don't care any longer. Okay. They just don't. They don't care whether you're minding your own business and they decide, well, I want to walk right here. and you're right there. And it's like, okay, well, you could wait or you could go around. They said, no, I want to walk right there. And it's that weird entitlement that a lot of people have. You have a lot of people who have felt so comfortable with using and abusing people, but then expect that same kind of, they expect respect from you when they can't then give it to you themselves. Then you have people be like, I don't mess with you. I'm not gonna, we ain't cool. You know what I mean? You have people who think it's okay to treat people however way they deem fit to treat people. But you can't say anything to me though. You can't say anything to me, but I could say something to you and I could treat you like crap. So we see a lot of this where a lot of people are unhinged. Insert all of the airport freakouts. Okay. But we see where a lot of people are unhinged, and we see where a lot of people just don't have the courtesy for each other any longer. And it's just like, they don't care. It's just me, 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 me. I don't care about you. I mean, heck, you could look online, you could look at the different aspects of life. Someone loses their job. Well, you see, that's what women get. Y'all don't. You know what I mean? You have someone who, let's say they didn't want to give their number to someone. Well, if she would have just given her number, she wouldn't. So it's a lot of this kind of stuff that goes on, and it bleeds into this right here, which is what you're seeing. Okay. It bleeds into this. Now, if airlines cared so much as you clearly do, Mr. Duffy, they would say no pajamas, no, no slippers, and they'll make certain requirements. I mean, they be with them requirements on them bags, of course, for obvious reasons, but there would be more requirements for stuff like that. But everything is just money driven. Give me the money, show me the money. Okay. And then that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. But let me know what you all think about this down below.